Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're connecting from. I'm excited to have you on this show today, and I know you all know we are bringing up a special guest this Monday, and his name is JIMI TEWE. I have been searching for this coach for a long time, and I'm glad to have him on this show. Before I go by inviting him and reading his bio and saying some things about him, I will start by introducing what the show is all about. So, welcome everyone. My name is Sandra Ukoh. I'm a Maxwell certified leadership coach. I also am an author of the book, Can Anything Hold You Back? Nothing should keep us from becoming the best versions of ourselves this year, 2022. Congratulations on your journey to making a difference with me. I'm so excited you're on this journey with me. We can become the change agent we're all called to be. And on this show, Making a Difference with Sandra Ukoh, we train, we teach, we mentor, coach, and coach people on how they can become better versions of themselves in the areas of their finances, business, career wise, leadership, and relationships. We learn from other people's stories and life experience, just like we'll be having a guest today speaking to us about his stories and life experiences. We try to learn from other people's experience and stories so that we don't repeat the wheel and again, and so that we don't fall into same pitfalls and the same mistakes they made, so that we can soar higher and get to our goals faster and become better versions of ourselves. Making a difference does not only include being financially okay, doing great on all business fronts, doing great spiritually, physically, mentally, just be a 360-degree personality, having a balanced life. And today we have a special guest with us. His name is JIMI TEWE. And I'm just going to be reading a short bio about him. Just a brief second. His name is JIMI TEWE is a transformational specialist and the CEO of JIMI TEWE LLC, a transformational service company operating out of Atlanta, Georgia. Through consulting, coaching, and teaching, JIMI provides a range of generic and bespoke solutions that caters to the needs of its diverse audience, leveraging its experience working with global institutions such as Accenture and working at senior executive levels in the financial services industry. JIMI is able to deliver interventions that help to build culture, gain clarity, and deliver exponential results. As a thought leader in the transformational space, JIMI has developed and deployed several pragmatic models that have helped his clients achieve exponential results in their career, businesses, and finances. His simplicity of delivery, matched by his insightful approach, causes his audience to engage fully with his initiatives, and this in turn drives their change. Over the years, he has created and deployed transformational initiatives that has attracted participants from over 30 countries of the world. And these include its flagship program, Turn on the Millionaire Within, an exponential accountability program. As an international speaker, JIMI has spoken on various platforms for associations, corporate organizations, faith-based organizations. Its unique blend of authenticity, intelligence, humor, and a deep understanding of the audience needs and appropriate solutions make him an unforgettable experience that keeps delivering results way after listening to him. Awesome. His consistency over the years has been recognized for his contribution in the personal development and performance implement space. He has been recognized as one of the 100 most influential young Nigerians and has won several awards by many bodies. As a human performance improvement specialist, JIMI is a certified job evaluator, an emotional and social competence intelligence specialist with the Hay Group of South Africa. JIMI is a member of the Life Coaches Association of Nigeria and Personal Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches USA, the American Association of Small Business Consultant, Texas, USA, and the International Certified Consultants Association, Canada. JIMI has authored and published 9 books focused on money, career, purpose, and success, and has sold tens of thousands of copies over the years. And this time around, I want to invite the transformational leader up stage now. And when he comes on board, I'll leave the floor for him so that he will be able to talk about himself, tell us what he has achieved, how he's making a difference in his word. And so, welcome, sir. Great to have you.
Thank you very much, Sandra. How are you doing? Well done.
Very good. Very good.
Awesome. Awesome.
My
All right.
audience would like to know you. They like to meet with you. They want to know what you're doing and how you'll be making a difference. We appreciate you for honoring our invitation at such a short notice. Great to have you on this platform, sir.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you very much. And where do I start from? I mean, I like to usually share my story. I like to take people through a quick journey from my early years because if anybody had said that I would be doing the kind of work that I do today, the probability was almost near impossible compared to what it is that was my experience way back. So I didn't grow up in America. I grew up in Nigeria. I grew up in a city called Ibadan. I'm first of 4 kids, 2 brothers and 1 sister. And my parents were pretty much academics. My father was a professor in the Faculty of Agriculture at the university. So we grew up, in the staff quarters. We went to the staff
Yeah.
school. We went to the high school on campus, and that's basically what we did all this period. Now, but from an early age, unfortunately, I was being the firstborn. Did not mean I was scoring first. In fact, I was usually the person scoring from behind. So my brother, the one right after me, he was always either first or second in his class, very consistently. My sister too, the same thing. The last born, he would probably between first and fifth, but typically I would come out of a class of 40, I would come somewhere 20 something, going towards 30. That was a constant. So at a very early age, I was very aware of my disadvantage where intelligence was concerned, as it were. And so I carried that, mindset. I didn't know that's what it was, but I carried that from primary school. I just felt like, oh, when it came to education, I didn't have, any great thing, to present. So I got into secondary school, same kind of results. Now it got worse in secondary school because our grading was now over 200. That's the whole form, So I used to make 20 something. I moved to 120 something, 140
Oh my
something,
God.
out of the whole set and all that. And so my lack of intelligence became a lot more apparent, and all that. Yet my siblings were always doing very well. And so it wouldn't be uncommon to find comments like, your junior ones are doing better than you, and all that. And so
Yeah.
I grew up with some form of, I
Complex.
didn't know what it was called then, but lack of self-esteem. A lot of things are going on at that point in time. Interestingly, with my parents also, they had their own challenges also, and there was so much pressure being the firstborn and everybody advising me to do something to make my father feel bad, do something. It was just, and so I struggled, significantly in the early years. I think I didn't get myself onto, one of the core things that I think began to change my life was, I guess, my faith, and the first time when I began to hear things like about how God loves me and how he has a plan for me, I was like, oh, wow, well, maybe there's a bit of hope in this, regard, and all that. But I didn't take that too seriously anyway. But I eventually found my way to the university, and I studied agricultural economics, not because that was my first choice. My first choice was actually medicine. I wanted to read medicine because my uncle was a rich man and he was a doctor. So I figured that the way to wealth is riches because my father had been on the farm, with all due respect. I had not seen the kind of money I wanted.
You
So I just,
know.
let me just go and be a doctor and all that. But just before, I read it well because my dad asked me, because he was a lecturer, he could get a few favors. He was like, "Are you sure you want to do medicine?" It's like as if maybe you don't understand what you're asking for. I said, "Yes, I want to do medicine." Until a cousin of mine stayed over with us, and I think about 3 a.m. I went to drink water in the kitchen. So I saw her reading, and then I was like, "Do you have an exam tomorrow?" She said, "No." I said, "Do you have tests tomorrow?" She said, "No." I said, "Is this what you read every day?" She said, "In medicine, you have to read about three to 4 hours every day." The following day, I had to go and tell my father, "I don't want to do medicine. I want to be like you. I want to study a Greek. That's what my
Oh my
future
God.
is." He said, "Okay, interestingly." I mean, he was excited. I wanted to do something close to what he was doing. What Greek, but I didn't want to be in his department, so I picked another department, cultural economics. And that's how I picked my course. Of course, I started my classes. By the end of the first year, I think I had about 3 carryovers, so that cycle of not doing well academically just continued that
Followed
way.
you.
Yeah, and I didn't know today if I was talking to a younger person, I'll let them know it was more of a mindset. Interestingly, I had an experience in my year 3 in high school, or we call it middle school, high school, but in high school then, and I was doing terribly, particularly in mathematics, very bad. So one day my father asked me for my notes. He saw the results and was very concerned because he wanted me to study science subjects in school. And if you don't do well in mathematics, you will never get into science.
Sure.
So he figured out that the way to solve it was to bring the maths teacher in school to become my home lesson teacher. And that way I'll be able to catch up. Well, they brought the home lesson teacher, but even at home I was failing. So about a month or more to the exam, he asked to see my lesson notes because he was very busy. He used to travel a lot, and when he saw the lesson notes, he saw that I had successfully brought the same anointing to the home lesson and all those kind of things, and he became very concerned. So the following day, he accompanied me to school, and we went to go and see the teacher because I mean those days we didn't have a GSM, a way to call.
Yeah,
So
sure.
we got to see the teacher, and I remember we stood right in front of the principal's office, and he was standing there. My teacher was there, and I was there, feeling all down because of the subject matter. And he says, Mr. Balogun, that's the man's name. What's Jimmy? I saw his note yesterday. He's not doing well at home. What's going to happen to his results? And Mr. Balogun made a statement that shocked me, even myself, that was subject matter. He said, maths, Jimmy, no, Jimmy will do well in maths. I was shocked. I was like, what? I will do well? I will do well? Because
Awesome.
I had results to show that I wasn't doing well. So now this man is saying, haven't evaluated me, I will do well. And for the first
That's
time,
awesome.
I borrowed that belief.
He
I got
believed in
only
you.
1A in the whole exam. 9 courses, I got only 1A. It was in mathematics. So that's why I say to people that when it comes to perception around things around intelligence, it's really about the mindset. And if you sit down with people and look back at them, you'll begin to understand where they pick those things up for. So I kind of like picked up a bit, in secondary school, got into university, but of course it was a struggle. And then I remember that in my 4th year, I studied a 5-year course. And my 4th year was the first time I finally sat down to calculate where I was going to land. Because in those days, you either have a first class, second class upper, second class lower, third class, or something like that. So my father told me he wanted me to make a second class upper, and I wanted to make a second class upper. But by my 4th year, when I calculated, this was the beginning of the 4th year, when I calculated, I realized that I was in second class lower. So by myself, I made a few adjustments. I moved away from the hostel. I moved back home because I could do that. I began to, spend some time to read intentionally. I used to have a bad habit. I never used to read for exams until exam time. All right. All those kind of things, So I started making little adjustments. There's a book I read recently called Atomic Habits. And I think that in retrospect, that's what I was doing. Little changes you make that make a big difference, So at that time, I remember, but there's a particular experience that I had, and and like I said, I'm a person of faith. And I remember one particular day, it was as if I was having a conversation in my mind with God. And a thought crossed my mind, and the thought was, who are the best students in your class? And I'm like, well, best students. And I could mention them. In fact, right now, I can mention some names from that way back then. And the voice said to me, he said, until you call yourself one of the best in your class, you will never be one of the best. So I'm like, where's that? You don't know my results. I'm lagging. I'm at the back of the class. But that thought kept ringing in my mind. Until you call yourself one of the best in the class, you will never be you will never be the best. Until you call yourself one of the best. So the more I'm thinking about it, one day it just occurs to me that it doesn't cost anything to call myself one of the best in the class. Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, it doesn't cost anything. So I
That's
remember
the
the time
talk.
I said it to myself, it sounded like gravel in my mouth. I struggled because I felt like I was lying. And I said,
Because there was a disparity.
exactly, yes, I had, and that's a challenge. Many times when you're trying to work in the mind, the hard evidence usually is a stumbling block or a limiting belief. And
Sure.
so I remember that I said it the first time, struggled. But after saying it a few times, I just said to myself, after saying it, that, but it's true, I'm not daft. I'm actually not a daft person, you know? And I began to own it. And I started saying to myself, I am one of the best students in the class. I'm one of the best students in the class. And so this was going on for a couple of days, going to a week or two. And then I got into class, one of the classes, one of the days. It was a large auditorium, I can't forget. And as I got into the auditorium, I started going to where I normally sit, which was at the back of the class. All right. And the reason why I sit at the back of the class was to avoid questions because I didn't want anybody to ask me a question that I don't know
And
the answer.
embarrass you.
Embarrassed, exactly. So I was going to the back, and then something said to me, if you are one of the best, why are you going to the back? So I'm like, because I don't want anybody to ask me a question. And it says again, if you're one of the best, why are you going to the back of the class? So I think about it that day, I think I mustered a bit of courage and I sat in the middle of the class. In fact, when I sat down there, the people there were wondering whether I missed my way there because they never used to see me in the middle of the class. So I sat in the middle of the class, and for the first time, I took notes. My notes were full because I actually could hear what the lecturer was saying. This was my 400 level, mind you. Every other time before, I used to just photocopy people's notes, you know, or borrow notes or stuff like that. Anyway, so I sat down there, and then I started sitting in the middle. Then one day I got into class again, and the voice says, "Where do the best people in class sit?" I'm like, "No, leave me alone, please, leave me alone. I've made it to the middle already. Why are you trying to stress me and all that?"
Oh my God.
And then after a while, one day I borrowed courage again, and as I entered the class, I sat in front. When I sat in front, they were really shocked. They were wondering, "What am I doing here? We know you, but what are you doing here?" So I sat down, and to the glory of God, nobody asked me any questions till I graduated. That's one. But on the other hand, is the fact that for the first time, I began to hear people say things like, "Oh, let's go for tutorial." I'm like, "Tutorial? What's that?" Can you imagine? You see, because those conversations never happen in the middle or at the back. They always happen in front.
Sure.
I started going for tutorials. I started, you know, and my learning habit began to change. Well, cut story short, I finished the second class upper the following year.
Awesome.
That's what happened. Exactly, yeah. So of course now I'm a second class upper, but before I left school, I'd been actively involved with a particular church, a local assembly, and I'd done work as a secretary, running administrative things for them. But one of the things that I love, two things I love doing, we used to have this career talk. We would go to schools and I will speak to them about their future and things like that. And I remember my pastor then, one of the particular days, he says to me, "Oh, Jimmy, before I speak, you're going to speak for 5 minutes." And I'm like, "What am I going to talk about?" But funny enough, I spoke to them, seemed to be well received. So every time he would speak, he would ask me to speak. Then the other thing he asked me to do was that he asked me to take announcements in church. And I used to be very shy, actually, back then. He asked me to take announcements in church. So I remember that the first time it was a blunder, really and truly. But the more I began to do it, the more comfortable I became with the microphone. And in my final year, I had an idea by inspiration to run a conference then, and I had about 43 people in attendance. I realized I enjoyed the process of teaching people, inspiring and impacting people. So by the time I got to Lagos for my NYSC, like the gap year that we normally have, I knew I wanted to work in a consulting firm. Cut the story short, I worked in the first consulting firm. I got my job there. I got retained there. And it was a real good job, real good exposure and all that. And from there, I moved to another international NGO, worked there for about a year. Then I went back into consulting and I worked with a company called Accenture. And Accenture for me was like a drill year. It was, I mean, I worked there for about 2 years. it was quite intense. Now, one thing I must mention there was that even though I was an analyst in Accenture, on the project I was on, they gave me a lot of work at the consultant level. And initially, I used to complain that you are not paying me as a consultant. Why are you giving me consultants type of work? But I did it anyway. I started learning how to get used to it and things like that. And what I did not know was that I was being set up for an opportunity.
Yeah,
By
you're
20,
preparing yourself for the future.
exactly. By 2006, around towards the end of the year, I got a bit discouraged. I wanted to leave the job. I wanted to have industry experience. And in having a conversation with one of my bosses one of those days, I just mentioned to him that I wanted to leave. And then he told me in confidence he was leaving also. He was going to become the head of HR for one of the banks, top 3 banks in Nigeria. And he asked me if I wanted to come with him. That's how I got a job as a manager. So I moved from an analyst in consulting and I became a manager in the bank. I became the head of recruitment for the bank, manpower planning and recruitment at the age of 28. I had 21 staff that were working for me with operating across 16 African countries at that point in time. I did that for about 2 years, 4 months, moved to another bank, then called Bank PHB, now Keystone Bank, head of recruitment also, manpower planning. I did that. But by this time, I started feeling like there was a lot more to my life. I felt like while the job was great, I felt that there were capacities inside of me that the job would not allow me to express. So I didn't know what it was then, but today we call it coaching, we call it public speaking, and consulting. And so I began to do a bit of research. And in 2010, I thought I had my plans in place. I resigned my job and I started my own organization. and for the first 2 years, I struggled financially because it's one thing to have a desire for something. It's another thing to know how to run the business of that thing. And I didn't understand the business of the thing. It was tough because I'm married, 2 children. At that time, married 2 children also. And so we went through quite some difficult times, because you mentioned about some of the difficult times, that I've been through. But look at it. This is 12 years after. I love what I do. I'm well recognized for what I do. I go to
before you go on, because I just want to interject. It said whatever will be, it's up to you. So it was more or less in your hands. So that's one of the reasons. The title of my book says, "Can anything hold you back?" Nothing can hold you back except yourself. Leaving yourself, coming out of your shell and being the person God has called you to be. So if it is going to be any change, it is up to you. It is in your hands to change whatever people say. Thank God for that teacher who saw and who spoke the right word in you. Some teachers at that time say he's good for nothing. They will run you down. But he saw something great in you. He didn't speak what he could see realistically.
Exactly.
He spoke spiritually. He said something different about you. He could have also killed your dream by saying it's a failure, it's a good for nothing. Your dad also would have been so depressed and everything. But I'm sure your daddy will go back home and say, "My son, we do well." And I'm sure when you came out with those results, it will be like, wow, it will be like the talk of the town.
Very true.
That was awesome. Like John Maxwell will always say, he says, beat by beat, step by step, whatever you're going to do, just like you're reading, you start reading a little more, start spending time, and gradually, and self-talk is key.
Yes.
When you were talking, it was an inspiration for me. Because for the youths behind us, our children, we need to teach them and let them know self-talk is the ultimate. You don't need anyone to run you down, bully you, I'll tell you that you're good for nothing. You must learn and pick some choice words that you would use. It's not easy. Just like you started, it wasn't easy for you because there was a lot of disparity, the things you were doing and what you want to get to. So I always tell people, I say, you have a mind. The sight and your eyes is meant to see the physical, but your mind sees your vision, sees where you want to be. So your mind and your heart must be ready to see that bigger picture. If you can't see it, you can't have it. You can't get into it. Because I know you're saying a lot, and I want, to drive these points down, because so that some people don't get distracted that you weren't born a successful guy. You went through you were like a failure from the beginning.
Yeah.
But you continued. You had a father and a mother who didn't lose up on you, but they kept on giving you all the support, still
Yeah.
believing in you. Because a lot of times parents, write off their kids.
Yeah.
You don't believe in them because they've
Mm.
seen a lot of the bad side of them,
Mm-hmm.
and finding it difficult to marry the picture of
Too.
where we
Yeah.
want our son to be. Because normally we see first son to be the leader in the house. Once the
Yeah.
first son doesn't do well, it is tantamount to say that the second, the third, and the fourth might not do well because you're a role
Mm.
model. You're meant to
Mm.
model the way you want the family to be run. But
Yeah.
you kept on, you didn't allow self-esteem, low self-esteem to kill you. Because I know
Yeah.
at that period you had low self-esteem. Because for you to be believing that you're a failure and you carry
Mm.
that mindset, I wish somebody got in touch with you while you were going through all this process. But God's time is actually
Yeah.
the very best time. Maybe if somebody had talked you to accepting the other side, you probably wouldn't have taken it so serious. But
Very
his
true.
timing was the best because
Yeah.
that affected you. Your marks became great. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
only become, you saw yourself from 2-2 to 2-1 because
Yeah.
anybody in 2-2 is already like a third class. Because any small shaking, you will go to third class.
True.
Because we're in between 2-1 and a third class. But
Yeah.
you kept at it and you started slow and you didn't allow what people were saying because one thing that kills a lot of people is what are people going to say?
Yeah.
What will they say? We
Yeah.
have to disabuse our minds from what people will say. What is most important? It's your life. It's your
Yeah.
kingdom. You have the yam and you have the knife.
Yeah.
Everything is in your custody. You are there's a saying that says you're the prophet of your life. So
Yeah.
whatever you say and whatever you accept is what you become. So
Yeah.
say what you want to become. See where
Yeah.
you want to go. And that's why I said before you start anything in life, have a picture of what tomorrow will be.
Mm.
Study, though it might be, they said, do not despise the days of little
New
beginning, because
beginnings.
you might
Yeah.
start small. Just
Yeah.
like you went to staff school. Any child, brought up in a school environment is always called a bookworm. They tend to read a lot because their father is a lecturer, their mom is either a teacher
Yeah.
or she's in the administrative of the school. But
Yeah.
that really does not old waters because you can't tell me because I live in a quarters where everybody is reading, I will
Yeah.
be brilliant. No,
Yeah.
because it happened to you because you were not, even though you were in an environment where everybody was reading, where there are students, because then as a middle school student, you'll be
Mm-hmm.
seeing a lot of college people going to the library, reading, working, and that aspiration, some children will take it up and say, I want to be like this uncle. I want to be
Yeah.
like this auntie. I see them driving. I see what they do. But, for you were just yourself
Mm.
until God met you. And there is always a God factor in whatever you do. It
Yeah.
shows that you cannot, even if you're flying
Mm.
somewhere, the God factor will show. And
Definitely.
you could have finished building the castle or the skyscraper. You will
Yeah.
just see it crumbling. So
Mm.
that's why this says when the foundation is faulty, what can the righteous do?
Just do.
So you
Yeah.
need to get things right, putting
Mm.
things in the right perspective. Do not work or do not try anything without having a God factor. We are people of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so we try to, as much as we work hard, we also trust God,
Mm-hmm.
believing that God is the ultimate. And
Yeah.
no man was made empty. God
Yeah.
has put something in each, every one of us. He might be different. Jimmy might be very good in a certain area. Sandra
Yeah.
might be good in something else.
Yeah.
But God has put in everyone a gift.
Mm.
So the earlier we start discovering, and that's the first thing anybody must do for any child, is self-awareness. Let
Mm.
them know who they are and
Yeah.
whose they are. Once
Yeah.
they know that they are an authority figure, whenever people talk them down, they'll be able to say, no, that's not what I am. This is what I am. Because they already know this is who I am and this is
Mm.
where I am going. It's
Yeah.
been so awesome talking to you. Let me give you the floor to go on. Your story
All
is
right.
inspiring.
Well, thank you very much. And so that's basically been the trajectory of my life up until now. Right now, I'm involved in, I travel
Now, I
quite a
want to
bit.
know about the bank. I know I caught you. How did you
Oh,
manage?
okay.
Because,
Oh, well, no,
now
no.
you left Accenture, you went
Yes,
into the
yes.
bank. And of course, the
Okay,
bank,
well,
the value and the kind of money you'll be making will be mind blowing. And for you to take the bull by the horn to say you want to leave a 9 to 5 job to go
Yeah,
and do a job where you do not even have, you don't know what tomorrow was going to be in that job. How
yeah.
did you cope and how did you fare?
Well, first and foremost, I think that again, my faith as a background, but secondly, also one of the things that motivated me to want to take that step was I was very aware of the potential that was in that field. I was walking with some people who were already in that field, but they've been doing that for years. And when I saw the kind of results that they made in three areas, the impact they were making, the influence they were gaining, and the income that they were generating, it just gave me a lot of conviction that
Sure.
this was
Impact,
what it is.
influence, and
An income.
income.
Yeah, and it just resonated so deeply with me. And I said to myself, well, you only have one life to live. You have to make it the best one. And I've always learned that nothing great comes out of staying on safe waters. Never. I mean, you don't look for risk, but life itself is risky. You have to take some
Yeah, not taking
bold,
risk is
courageous steps.
riskier.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was what made me leave my job in 2010. But like I learned later that you also have to have the requisite knowledge to be able to make things happen. And it took me a bit, but I began to understand it. Of course, eliminating limiting beliefs, learning how things work, being courageous and bold. I mean, you asked me what's one experience that I had that was quite tough. I remember that I did a project and I got a few people to invest money into it, and I lost all the money. I was owing then
Wow.
about 12.8 million naira back then, and I was so dejected because this was me that always talked about being a person of integrity. Now I can't look the people in the eyes, and I did not even know where the money was going to come from. It was really a very tough, situation. But again, one day after a certain process, I realized that it wasn't like I didn't want to pay money. I just did not have the money to pay. So there was no need to be ashamed to be able to have a conversation with who that I was owing. So I remember that I called one of them. I was owing him 1 million naira. And I said, this was about over a year after, I'd hardly taken his calls because it is when you owe people money and all that. And then
Mm,
I said to him, oh, that
yeah.
I just talk to you and all that. Have you been? He said, it's been a while. I said, yes. I said, this project that I did, I kind of like told you that it didn't work out well, but I thought I would to pay, but I'm able to pay and all that. The guy said, what, that project, I don't know. He said, he has forgotten about it. I shouldn't worry about it. And before I knew it, I think somebody forgave me 1 million. Two people let go of 500,000 each. And then within a short period of time, I got a project of, I think it was about 16 million naira and all that. And I began to just pay the money. And what I learned was that you don't come out of a pit by feeling bad about yourself and feeling down. Somehow, your mind must come out first, then your whole life will come out after. And so the moment I got to that place where I believed again in myself, in my abilities and my capabilities, I began to, excuse me, move beyond a lot of that. And that's been my attitude. Even till today, I have tough situations I face in business many times, but I've learned that no matter how tough the situation is, there's always a solution. I might just
Yeah,
not
sure.
the solution at the moment, but the truth about it is that I do have a solution to it, either by myself or through somebody, but or very importantly, by the help of the Spirit of God. And so I have learned, I've become fearless in many ways about life.
Sure.
I've embraced courage. I'm also very prone to always seek wisdom early, because I realize that when you do that, you are able to navigate even the most difficult paths, that life will present to you and all that. So today, I'm doing this. I moved to America last year. Why did I move to America? I didn't plan to. 2020, when was that now? 2016 or 20, I think it was, no, 2018. Yes, 2018. And I was going to become 40 years old at that point in time. And I'm just taking time to pray, to think about, life and things I had to do. And I remember then that I came to Chicago for a conference at that time, and my pastor just gave a word. You know how we say a word, and he said, "I saw you and your family moving to America," and I never had seen myself in America. And before then, so in my mind, I'm like, "For what? Why? I'm not interested." But well, everything came, together. By 2019, I met a few people and they began to speak to me about the global dimension to the work I was doing. And the more that I began to see the opportunities and that actually that was where I felt God was leading to me, the more I began to realize that your positioning actually also matters also. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to come to America, but I don't want to come to America and, have to go through any tough immigration process. If it is you that wants me to go, then work it out. And then somebody mentioned a particular type of visa that apparently all the work I've been doing, because over the years I've done many conferences for free, all the conferences that I did that I got into debt. So, but apparently all that impact, I'd also documented them, I'd gotten awards for them, I'd gotten recognition from some institutions. And so there's a particular visa called the visa for people that have extraordinary ability. And by the time I put it all together, they gave it to me. It typically takes about 3 months for them to give you that visa. They gave it to me in 11 days. And so
Wow.
I got that. Yes. So once I got that April ending. I got my visa date July 1. By July 21, I was live in America with my family, ready for the next phase. And so that's what it's been. So of course, being here also in any new place, even though I've been quite busy,
Challenging.
I've traveled to Nigeria 3 times in between to do projects. I've been to the UK. I'm going again in a couple of weeks. But I realized that in America that there's another level of assignment that I have because I find that a lot of people, and not everybody, some people are doing well, but the number of people are stuck, in that cycle where they're doing what they have to do to survive, not what
Sure.
they have
Yeah,
to do.
that's what is so
Exactly.
common here.
So my assignment in this season is helping people to navigate from survival to thriving. And
Thriving,
so the
sure.
initiatives that I'm going to be doing, my conferences, my consulting, my coaching, all of them are all going to be geared towards that. And I enjoy my life. I love what I do. Thank you.
Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. It's so awesome. Where you were talking about, hopping from, known to unknown, it's
Mm,
always good you learn the unknown before you dive in.
exactly.
I'm sure if somebody had told you that, Jimmy, please stay 2 years more, whilst
Mm,
working there,
mm,
grow your personal business. Pari
mm,
pursue, such that at least some kind of income would have been coming in, then
mm,
at least be able to match up to 50% of what
mm,
you are getting. Then you
mm,
know that a border hand is what two in the market.
mm,
What you earn
mm.
was much
Yeah.
more. At least you'd have, okay, so okay, this is my own business. This will give me a lot of
Mm,
liberty to do other things. And I will be fulfilling purpose, I'll be impacting, influencing, and I'll be making an income, which is even more better.
yeah.
But you didn't grow
Yeah.
it, you didn't try
Yeah.
it. You probably would have been
Yeah.
doing weekend jobs, or when you're on
Yeah.
leave, go work with your friends who are doing coaching just to see
Yeah.
test waters before you dive in. You just dived in without even trying it. I
Yeah.
want to thank you and I appreciate your courage and I
Thank
appreciate your
you.
staying power because courage is not absence of fear. There is
Yeah.
fear, but it's combating the fear,
Yeah.
saying, no, I am not giving in. I
Yeah.
must conquer. That's what you did because some people will run back to the bank, just like begging back that their boss should take them back because they've
Mm,
tried it and it's not working. How do
yeah.
I survive? But
Yeah.
you went through the turbulent time. And
Yeah.
like I always say, challenges is a refiner. It brings
Mm,
out your creative mind. It puts
yeah.
on your creative cap. You
Mm,
begin to start thinking, what other ways can I make it work? And that
yeah.
was what you did. And it was just a matter of time. You came out of it. Your
Mm,
story is so inspiring. It inspired
thank
me.
you.
And I
Thank
guess I
you.
think we need to talk behind doors. It's
Fair enough.
awesome, very awesome.
Thank you so much.
I'm thrilled. I've also learned from you, and I
Mm,
guess all our audience today have learned from you. How would they reach you if they need to reach you? Because a lot of people have heard you, and a lot of people are going to be watching this video. It's going to
yeah.
be on YouTube. It's going to be on Facebook and everywhere.
Yeah.
And they want to reach you for the help you're giving already to people. You want to
Sure.
influence them and take them from that circle. How would they reach you? Can you just tell us means
All
way
right.
Medicaid?
The fastest way to reach me is via social media, particularly on Instagram. So on
Okay.
Instagram, my name is Jimmy TEWE, and I actually handle my Instagram myself. People don't believe it, but I actually handle so my DMs. I actually check my messages by myself and I respond to them. One. The other way people are able to reach me is through an email. It's info at jimitewe.org. Info@jimitewe.org. That's the other way to reach me. But the fastest way to actually get me would be through my Instagram handle, Jimitewe. And that way you're able to get. Also on LinkedIn, also, Olu Jimitewe on LinkedIn. People are able to reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Perhaps you're finding it difficult to reach him. If you can't reach him on all the means, you can also shoot me a mail at info@sandraukoh.com or info@deepinsideworld.com. Thank you so much for staying true. I'm sure I've kept a lot of people, from their sleep, staying this late, because this program goes on every Monday, 10 p.m. West African time and 5 p.m. Eastern time every Monday. Thank you so much for staying true, all our viewers. We look forward to seeing you in another episode. And perhaps I will need to bring you up again. Jimmy, please. We are thinking ahead. You would always be available and you will yield to us. Thank you so much and have a blessed evening.
Thank you.
Bye.